So, you've seen before that when the browser renders HTML, every element has an invisible box around it. Well, usually invisible. These are the boxes that you've seen when you're looking around pages in developer tools. There are a whole bunch of things that we can set about any of these boxes using CSS. There's the width, the height of the box. There's the padding, which is the space around the contents of the box. Outside the padding is the box's border, which is usually invisible, but you can turn it on with CSS. Then there's the margin, which is the space that the browser makes between this box and other boxes. Each of these is something that you can set a value measured in CSS units, such as pixels or ems. Let's take a look at this with a couple of fancy little boxes in a big ol' web page. Let's try configuring some of these properties for these boxes. We'll start out by setting a border 5 pixels. To make the border visible, we'll also say we'll make it solid green. That's something that you can do with borders. And hey, now our boxes have green borders around them. But right now, these boxes are jammed up into each other. That's kind of ugly. How far apart should we space them? Well, how about 1 em? That's the same as the height of this text inside them. So let's do that. Margin : 1 em. Thing is, the text inside these boxes is kind of crowded up against those borders. We can fix that by adding padding. Let's make the padding a little bit smaller than the margin, maybe half an em. Padding : 0.5 em. There we go. Now the text is a little bit more comfortable in the boxes. Notice that the padding is space inside the box's borders, whereas the margin is space outside the border. Finally, right now these boxes are the full width of the page. That's how block elements usually start out by default. Let's make them a little bit smaller than that. Let's say width : 100 px and height : 50 px. Ah, there we go. That's looking more like something that we could use on a web page. Okay, one more thing. Let's get these boxes to move out of the way. We can do this by telling CSS to make them float right, which makes the browser try to set them at the right side of the page. Float is one of the many ways that we can change the positioning of the box using CSS. You'll learn a couple more ways later in the lesson.